This video was made possible by our Patreon supporters. As a follow-up to our last video mapping a small sample of Russia's losses, we're going to examine one tank model in particular and what it tells us about Russia's invasion force. Since February 24th, we've seen almost every Russian tank model committed to the fight in one way or another, from the oldest T-72 AVs of the 90th Guards Tank Division to the T-72 B3 Model 2016s of the 2nd Guards Motor Rifle Division. The T-80 is interesting because it's not nearly as prolific as the T-72, so it's a lot easier to identify units based on equipment alone. It's also one of the few tanks both Russia and Ukraine field that look nearly identical. The Russians have three variants of the T-80 in service. The T-80U and T-80BV are relatively old models from the mid-1980s. Essentially, the spark notes of these variants is the T-80BV was an incremental improvement to the 1978 Mark T-80B, adding Contact 1 explosive reactive armor, while the T-80U was more of a comprehensive upgrade, making it superior to the BV. There were also some additional upgrades during the 2000s like the T-80U E1, but the U and BV are the main designations. From 2017, the BVs began to be upgraded into the new T-80 BVM standard, which essentially brought it on par with the more modern T-72s. This is the least numerous variant, but was trickling into the force structure in company-sized batches prior to 2022. As far as distribution, like the rest of the Russian army, the T-80s are clustered in the west and far east. All T-80Us are subordinate to the 4th Guards Tank Division garrisoned near Moscow. Its 12th and 13th Tank Regiments have 3 battalions of 31 T-80Us and UE-1s each, for a total of about 188 in the division, counting regimental commander tanks as well, while the 423rd Motor Rifle Regiment has a 41 tank battalion of its own. The 423rd initially had old T-80 BVs, but received some deliveries of the T-80 BVMs in the past couple of years. Its battalion likely now has 2 companies of T-80 BVMs and 2 companies of the old BVs. Up north in Murmansk, the 200th Arctic Motor Rifle Brigade has a battalion of T-80 BVMs. The platform is perceived as being superior in extreme cold climates due to its turbine engine, which explains its stationing here. Out in the Far East, there are significantly more older BVs as it's a low priority area. Some of these units were previously equipped with T-72 variants, but were sort of recently re-equipped with the BVs taken out of storage. The 35th Army near China has 3 battalions of T-80 BVs, 1 per motor rifle brigade. Although one brigade, the 64th, has had most or all of its tank battalion re-equipped with a new BVM. The 5th Army to its south is in a similar situation, with the 57th Motor Rifle Brigade sporting a T-80 BV battalion. Meanwhile, the 39th Motor Rifle Brigade, stationed across from Hokkaido, the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade in Vladivostok, and the 40th Naval Infantry Brigade in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky each have a battalion of T-80 BVs as well. On the other side of the fence, Ukraine also fields the T-80 BV. Each of its 6 air assault brigades have a 10-tank company of BVs, while at least one of its Marine brigades has a 31-tank battalion. These can be very hard to tell apart from the Russian BVs, so we're going to explain why we think the ones we showed here are Russian. Perhaps the most dramatic equipment losses have come from the 4th Guards Tank Division operating on the Sumy axis. The 4th Guards is unique in that it's the only division which has all of its maneuver regiments outfitted with a T-80. As of time of recording, almost 40 T-80Us have been recorded as destroyed or abandoned, all from the 4th Guards Tank Division, and they've also lost some T-80 BVs from their infantry regiment as well over a battalion worth of tanks. There are a few ways we know that these are from the 4th Guards. First, the area between Sumy and Kharkiv is the 1st Guards Tank Army's area of operations, which the 4th Guards is a part of. Second, the 4th Guards is the only unit fielding the T-80U en masse. And third, the tactical markings. Unlike units near Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Crimea, units near Sumy don't appear to be painting big white V's or Z's on their tanks. However, they do have other markings. The common tactical marking for the 4th Guards is 2 oak leaves, which harkens back to the insignia of the World War II era 4th Guards Tank Corps. This has been seen on several vehicles in the area. However, it appears that they've also applied a second marking, a white hexagon with a red border and a black 4 in the middle. Most T-80s we've seen are using this hexagonal tack marker, but some use both, like this example abandoned on day 2. This connects the 2 markings. To further prove that these are indeed the 4th Guards, look at this T-80U from around 2019 on the divisional training ground. Focus on this number 2 on the rearmost paneling, and then look at this abandoned T-80U in Ukraine. Same camel pattern, and that distinct numbering on the paneling has obviously been covered up by the new tack marker. So from this, we can pretty well infer that the T-80s we see lying around this area with this tack marker are Russian. In the comments of the last video, there was some questioning over this pair of T-80 BVs in particular. They could be Ukrainians, some might say, because they don't have the Z painted on them or whatever. Well, first, these things were found right behind a Russian T-80U, and they have the 4th Guards tack marker on their infrared searchlights. But if that wasn't enough, the insignia is also on their underwater snorkel storage as well. Relatively close by, the Ukrainians later took pictures of a destroyed T-80 BVM as well, which probably belonged to the 423rd Motor Rifle Regiment. But moving on from the 4th Guards, other T-80 units have been deployed as well. For example, near Kharkiv, the 200th Arctic Motor Rifle Brigade is in action with their T-80 BVMs. The 200th is basically an MTLB mounted infantry brigade with a T-80 BVM battalion as support. It's normally under the Northern Military District, a Navy-dominant command, but it's likely been placed under the Operational Control or OPCOND to the Western Military District for this operation. This unit is notable for its use of yellow paint for tactical numbering, and the common tack marker appears to be a yellow star with either a bullet or a letter in the center. Note the Z in the box, marking this unit as operating on the Kharkiv axis. T-80 BVMs have also been spotted north of Kyiv, pictured here captured by Ukrainian Special Forces. This example is likely from the 64th Motor Rifle Brigade, normally stationed on the border with China. The area north of Kyiv is partially under the operational control of the 64th's parent 35th Combined Arms Army, which is by and large T-80 BV equipped. However, the 64th in particular has at least 2 companies of the new BVMs, and possibly a full battalion set as of mid-2021, which would explain why it's been found north of Kyiv. If we do end up seeing older T-80 BVs in this region, they're likely from the 64th's sister brigades in the 35th Army. If you enjoyed this video, check out this dive into Russian tank unit organization and equipment. We'll see you over there.